my daughter is in first grade, and so they do these things where they have to fill out what it describes the snowman. And so she wrote, "The snowman is happy because he is alive." This is what some of the artwork she brings home now after what happened in Sandy Hook.
Well, I live in Newtown. My 3 kids all went to Sandy Hook School, and this horrible tragedy has opened my eyes to the state of gun legislation in America, and it has to drastically change.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President and Vice President of the United States and Ms. Katarina Rodgard.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First, I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart the President, the Vice President, for inviting me to speak here today. Never in a million years did I think an average citizen such as myself would ever get an opportunity like this. My name is Katarina Rodgard. I reside in suburban Maryland, and I am the mother of 2 beautiful young children. I have a unique background, both in the performing arts and in law. I have been personally affected by gun violence. As a dance teacher, I lost one of my students at the massacre at Virginia Tech. Rima Samaha was a bright, beautiful, talented dancer who lost her life. It was stolen from her at the age of 18. I will never forget her presence in my classes and her enthusiasm for dance. As the mother of a first grader, I cannot even look at my own daughter without thinking about the poor innocent victims at Sandy Hook. My heart breaks for them and their families, and the families of the 8 children every day who are killed by guns in this country. After losing Rima and seeing the horror at Sandy Hook, my reaction was that I no longer felt it was safe to raise a family in this country. I felt I either needed to leave the country or do something. As an attorney, I vowed to do something because I feel that my right to feel safe in this country and the rights of our children to feel safe in this country are paramount and worth fighting for. I have never been an activist before, but I have found a voice with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, and I am proud and honored to help them fight for better laws in this country. I am also honored to acknowledge Vice President Joe Biden, a strong proponent of gun violence prevention measures in the Senate for decades and now in the White House. He is also an advocate for the rights of women and children. As mothers, we are eternally grateful for your support. Enough is enough. The time to act is now. I am now extremely honored to introduce to you the President of the United States of America, Barack Obama.
Get back to our top story right now. President Obama stepping up his efforts to move forward on gun control. Flanked by those who've been touched by gun violence, the president today tried to shame the American public and the Congress into action. He was introduced by Katarina Rodgard, who taught one of the victims of the Virginia Tech massacre and is a mother herself. Thank you. Hey, what was it like to introduce the President of the United States at the White House today?
It was absolutely amazing. I'm just a regular, ordinary citizen, and I just found out less than 24 hours before I had to do it, that I was going to do it.
How did they pick you? Did somebody call you from the White House? How did they know about you?
They asked our organization, Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, to be present at this event, and they asked us each to submit a short bio of our story, and I guess they chose my bio. And they were affected by it enough to ask me to introduce the president.
Have heard about it, but you knew someone who was actually brutally killed senselessly at Virginia Tech University. So how frustrated are you right now when you see this tougher gun control legislation seemingly stall?
Oh, I'm very frustrated. These are people, most of whom have never been touched by gun violence. This is an epidemic. This is a public health crisis.
Katerina, as you just heard, lost one of her most promising students in Virginia Tech, the shootings there that took place 6 years ago. And she and dozens of other moms and dads, all victims of gun violence, have come here today from across the country, united not only in grief and loss, but also in resolve and in courage and in a deep determination to do whatever they can as parents and as citizens. We have an obligation to try. Now, in the coming weeks, members of Congress will vote on whether we should require universal background checks for anyone who wants to buy a gun so that criminals or people with severe mental illnesses can't get their hands on one. They'll vote on tough new penalties for anyone who buys guns only to turn around and sell them to criminals. They'll vote on a measure that would keep weapons of war and high-capacity ammunition magazines that facilitate these mass killings off our streets. They'll get to vote on legislation that would help schools become safer and help people struggling with mental health problems to get the treatment that they need. None of these ideas should be controversial. Why wouldn't we want to make it more difficult for a dangerous person to get his or her hand on a gun? Why wouldn't we want to close the loophole that allows as many as 40% of all gun purchases to take place without a background check?
Senator, is there any gun regulation, any restriction of gun rights that you could accept, that you could vote for?
Well, sure. I think the fact that we have background checks when people buy firearms and we prevent felons and those with serious mental illnesses from acquiring them, I think those make perfect sense.
So a universal background check is something you could support?
The current state of the law is those background checks are in place when a licensed firearm dealer sells firearms. And I think there's a lot of room for improvement on the quality.
Because 40% of the sales are private citizen to private citizen. That's the loophole we talk about.
Well, except that statistic is actually pretty bogus. It's based on a study before the background checks were put into place. And so that study is highly questionable, that 40%.
I don't know. Wayne.
Faced with an uphill battle in Congress, the president took his campaign for new gun control measures on the road today.
We're not going to wait until the next Newtown.
A central component of the president's plan is requiring virtually anybody buying a gun to get a background check. But his audience in Minneapolis has seen firsthand that that's not enough. Last September, just a few miles from where the president spoke, Minnesota suffered its worst ever mass shooting. 36-year-old Andrew Engeldinger went on a rampage at this sign store after he was fired, shooting and killing 6 employees before turning the gun on himself. According to Engeldinger's parents, he was mentally ill and had refused treatment. But here's the thing, he legally bought his gun here after passing a background check.
Our son struggled for years with mental illness, In the last few years, we have no longer had contact with this.
The local sheriff has met with President Obama and believes the current system simply misses too much.
We've identified gaping holes in the background checks. And it's really become what is America's dirty little secret about these background checks.
Last year, there were 9 mass killings in the U.S. 8 of the gunmen had a history of mental illness. A background check is only as good as the database used to check a gun buyer's record. Consider this, only 12 states actively submit mental health records to the federal database. The president has proposed fixing this by giving states money to improve record keeping and by urging doctors to report credible threats of violence to law enforcement. Mental health experts say the other key to fixing the problem is identifying and treating those with mental illness at a young age. The White House wants to give states the resources to do that, but of course, Diane, that is going to require money, and it is also the kind of thing that will take a long time to actually show results.
A long time. How soon? What is the soonest?
Well, it's going to take a while because you have to go in. You're establishing a system to go in and identify people, treat them, and then give the mental health experts the ability to report who they are concerned about to federal law enforcement, something they are not normally inclined to do. But
you're saying the president's out firing up the public because his own team has been a little bit hesitant?
No doubt. The leader of his battle in the Senate, Harry Reid, with George Stephanopoulos on Sunday on This Week, saying that he's not even convinced on all of the president's plan.
Okay, Jonathan Karl, thanks so much.